And we want to return now to our top story, the Munich Security Conference, which begins today amid tensions between the United States and Europe. Our Chief Political Correspondent, Michaela Küfner, she is in Munich for us. Michaela, if we go back just a year ago, it was the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance who delivered a speech that kind of blew up transatlantic relations as we have known them. Now we've got the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, speaking there today. What's he going to do? Is he going to put more fuel on the fire, or has he come as the fireman?
Well, I can tell you, as someone standing here essentially at the water hole of the Munich Security Conference, inside the Bayerische Hof, this is where everybody needs to go for coffee. They want some free coffee. The talk here is nobody wants to look back. Nobody wants to go back to that speech by J.D. Vance where he said there shouldn't be a firewall, where he was basically just days ahead of elections here in Germany, openly interfering, openly speaking out for the far-right alternative for Germany, and openly basically telling the Europeans how they should conduct their own democracy. Nothing like that is expected here, first and foremost, because it will be Marco Rubio speaking for the U.S. government. He's the highest-ranking official here, and he will have the message that, yes, the old days are over. I'm sure he's going to launch the odd attack on the Europeans to come up to the table. But let's put it this way. This time, nobody can be in shock because the expectations towards the United States have hit an all-time low.
Are we expecting a reaction from European leaders, to what Rubio says, positive or negative? I mean, do they have to react this time?
They absolutely must react, but let's not forget, it will be the Europeans, it will be the German Chancellor who holds the opening speech, who sets the scene. That's what J.D. Vance did last time around. And the scene setter will, and we've had a briefing on this already, clearly a much more independent-sounding European leader in the form of the German Chancellor. The Europeans know they need to invest more in their own security, but they also know they fully depend on the continuation of NATO and, of course, the continuation of the Americans in NATO. They've also shown that they're looking elsewhere. There's the Mercosur trade agreement with Latin American states. There's a huge EU-India trade deal that's just been sealed, and they will listen also very closely to the Chinese foreign minister, who will be speaking here straight after Marco Rubio on Saturday. This is an opportunity for the Chinese to also forge new alliances as the Americans have become so independent. I only want to throw it in there, Greenland. That was a turning point in how the Europeans see the Americans.
That's right. I mean, a year ago, we weren't talking about Greenland at all. Now we're talking about Greenland, and we're talking about NATO security, whether or not it even survives Greenland. And if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like Denmark is wasting no time getting all of its cards on the table with respect to Greenland. Some high-level meetings taking place, right?
Yes, absolutely. The Europeans are holding a high-level meeting here together with the Danish Prime Minister, of course, demonstrating that support she received over Greenland will continue. Also, that the commitment to dedicate more military resources into the defense of the Arctic, where Greenland has now become, of course, this hotspot for operations, not just by the United States, that will continue, and that the Europeans will be doing their part so that there is no excuse for the United States, which can already legally basically post as many military personnel and equipment on that island if it wants to. So there is also no excuse in the future to start questioning that again. So there's clear symbolism here, but also there's a new dynamic in how NATO is viewed, and a recognition that talking at least with the French and the Brits about the possibilities of bolstering their nuclear forces also as part, and this is also always being stressed, as part of the nuclear defense within NATO, is something that certainly the Europeans and the Germans in particular are also thinking about and talking about.
I also have to ask you about Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, the invasion by Russia now. We're talking about 4 years, maybe going on 5 years. Ukrainian President Zelensky, he's expected to come to Munich for this conference. We know that the German foreign minister earlier today made it clear that Germany stands with Ukraine. So what can we expect coming out of this this conference in Munich? Is this going to be a chance for Germany to really continue to take the reins and pick up the slack, the perceived slack that's being created by the Americans when it comes to protecting Ukraine?
Well, Germany already is by default the largest supporter of Ukraine now. The Americans have withdrawn a lot of support. They are more in the business of selling weapons rather than simply providing them, also when it comes to other assistance. And that has changed the dynamic. That's what I'm hearing here from people who are also near those talks. I was there today. I saw the chemistry between the two foreign ministers from Ukraine and Germany. They're allies. German Foreign Minister Vadeful also joined Ukraine's foreign minister in opening an exhibition in Ukraine House just around the corner. There's a big Shahed drone there also exhibited. So he got a real sense of what that threat means, and there is the political commitment to help Ukraine find that just peace that is at the center of the talks. But I also want to mention that dynamic we had in December where talks took place in Berlin, where the Europeans are at the table, that is somewhat evaporated. And that's an uphill struggle for the European side to make sure that they are not just informed about talks, but actually sitting at the table and part of the decisions on what can lead to truce or towards at least a ceasefire.
Yeah, it's amazing, too, how things have changed so quickly with Ukraine. 2 years ago, we were talking about Germany dragging its feet to help Ukraine. Now, as you just said, Germany leading the way in terms of security assistance. Amazing. Michaela Küfner for us at the Munich Security Conference. Michaela, as always, thank you.
You're welcome.